The social discipline window is composed of two axes: support and control. Traditionally, these concepts are thought to be contradictory, that an authority only has the choice to be controlling and paternalistic, or else nurturing and maternal. In actuality, though, a third option shows how both of these are useful and necessary approaches, and they can work together. If support is graphed on an axis in one direction, from low to high, and control is graphed on the other axis, from low to high, four quadrants representing the four general possibilities for social discipline emerge. The bottom right square is low on control and high on support. It highlights the permissive approach. This attitude assumes that with nurturing alone, people will make positive changes, but it often leads to protectiveness and doing things for people. The bottom left quadrant is low on both the support and control axes. It represents not doing anything. This is a neglectful stance and it is destructive. The top left, showing high control and low support, represents the authoritarian or punitive approach, doing things to people. This approach sets rules and holds people to them with little need for explanation. Taken to its extreme, this approach is cold and distant. It is authoritarian. It provides no mechanism for stepping in to set clear boundaries. The area to the top right, where both control and support are high, is restorative. This represents the positive combination of the best aspects of the punitive and permissive approaches. The restorative approach has been called authoritative, doing things with people. It combines high levels of control for setting boundaries and expectations with high levels of support for nurturing for people to succeed and make positive change. Let's apply the social discipline window to school. Take, for example, a student who is repeatedly disruptive in class, speaking over the teacher and making loud comments and jokes. The permissive strategy is when we do things for someone. This is the for pane of the window. We accept their excuses or make excuses for them. The teacher might tell herself that the student is just trying to be liked by the other students because he's been having trouble making friends, or that his unrestrained enthusiasm is a sign that he's enjoying the class. A possible outcome is that other students, seeing that a high expectation of student behavior is not upheld, will similarly begin to speak out of turn, and the teacher will slowly lose the respect of the class and the ability to facilitate an effective learning space. The neglectful strategy is not to do anything, to hope that the student will just eventually stop. This is the not pane of the window. The punitive strategy is punishment, doing something to the person who is misbehaving. The teacher might give the student detention or remove privileges like being able to come on a field trip. Remember Luke? The non-restorative teacher sent him to the office rather than consider the motivation behind his misbehavior. She was operating in the two pane, maintaining high control but offering low support. This strategy may result in animosity between the teacher and student and will not address the core issues or needs contributing to the problematic behavior. The restorative strategy is when we work with a person to resolve the issue. The teacher would speak with the disruptive student one-on-one, explain the impacts of his disruptive behavior, and respectfully ask the student about his experience and what is going on. This keeps communication open and allows the teacher to find out what needs are contributing to the student's misbehavior. In the earlier example with Luke, the second teacher had a restorative approach, working with him. Questions that can help explore motivation behind behaviors include things such as, is the student having trouble making friends? Are there troubles at home that are impacting the student's behavior at school? Are there other more productive ways that will allow the student to be an outgoing leader in the classroom? Does the student need additional material to challenge him and keep him on task? The teacher and student work together to understand what the barriers are to meeting the behavior expectations and how those barriers can be addressed. The fundamental hypothesis of restorative practices is provided in this quote from Ted Wachtel of the International Institute of Restorative Practices. Human beings are happier, more cooperative and productive, and more likely to make positive changes in their behavior when those in positions of authority do things with them rather than to them or for them. The most critical function of restorative practices is restoring and building relationships. Because informal and formal restorative processes foster the expression or affect of emotion, they also foster emotional bonds. Writing about the psychology of affect, Sylvan S. Tompkins asserts that human relationships are best and healthiest when there is free expression of affect or emotion, minimizing the negative, maximizing the positive, but allowing for free expression. The most critical function of restorative practices is restoring and building relationships, and those 9 affects help us to understand how this can be done. They are categorized into positive, neutral, and negative. Most of the affects are defined by a pair of words that represent the least and most intense expression of the emotional state. There are 2 positive affects: enjoyment, joy, which is an expression of human connection, and interest, excitement, an affect which is necessary for intellectual development. There is only one neutral affect: surprise, startle, which is the momentary inability to continue what was being done or start something new. It functions like a reset button. In the area of negative affects, Tompkins identified 6: shame and humiliation, which is a self protection signal and a critical regulator of human social behavior; distress, anguish, which involves alerting yourself and others that help is needed; disgust, the need to expel or get rid of something; fear, terror, the response for survival, the signal to fight, flee, or freeze; anger, rage, which occurs when you have had way too much and demand that a situation get fixed; and dismay, a word Tompkins coined to describe turning up one's nose in a rejecting way. It signifies repulsion and is the avoidance signal. Shame and humiliation were among the negative affects Tompkins identified. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word shame? Enter your thoughts on our course Padlet located at the bit.ly link shown on your screen. You can check the site at a later date to see the responses of others. Stop the recording now to type your response, then return to continue with this module.